Praise God, church. Let's open our Bibles to the book of Mark, the Gospel of Mark, and chapter 14. We'll read from verses 55 to 62. The chief priests and the whole Sanhedrin were looking for evidence against Jesus, so that they could put him to death. But they did not find any. Many testified falsely against him, but their statements did not agree. Then some stood up and gave this false testimony against him. We heard him say, "I will destroy this temple made with human hands, and in 3 days will build another, not made with hands." Yet even then their testimony did not agree. Then the high priest stood up before them and asked Jesus, "Are you not going to answer? What is this testimony that these men are bringing against you?" But Jesus remained silent and gave no answer. Again the high priest asked him, "Are you the Messiah, the Son of the Blessed One?" And then Jesus answered, he said, "I am. And you will see the Son of Man sitting at the right hand of the Mighty One and coming on the clouds of heaven." Let us also read Mark chapter 15, verses 1 to 5. Very early in the morning, the chief priests with the elders, the teachers of the law, and the whole Sanhedrin made their plans. So they bound Jesus, led him away, and handed him over to Pilate. The first question, "Are you the king of the Jews?" asked Pilate. And Jesus replied, "You have said so." The chief priests accused him of many things. So again, Pilate asked him, that's the second question, "Aren't you going to answer? See how many things they are accusing you of." But this time, Jesus still made no reply, and Pilate was amazed. So Jesus was being falsely accused, and that's the topic that I'm going to speak on today. What is it to accuse? The dictionary says that to accuse is to claim that someone has done something wrong, an offense or a crime. And as we have just read in our Bibles, we've observed that Jesus remained silent when he was accused. So there were instances where he remained silent, and there were certain questions where he replied. So when he was accused, he remained silent. But when he was asked to state facts that glorified his Father, that's when he replied. None of the testimonies, if we see, held strong. They were all false accusations. The question is then, why did Jesus remain silent? Why did he not speak against the false accusation? Obviously, he knew better. Let us read from Revelation chapter 12, verse 10. "Then I heard a loud voice in heaven say, 'Now have come the salvation and the power and the kingdom of our God and the authority of his Messiah. For the accuser of our brothers and sisters, who accuses them before our God day and night, has been hurled down.'" Satan, the devil, he is the accuser. He does it day and night. He accuses our brethren, our brothers and our sisters. And in previous instances, and he does it day in and day out. In previous instances, when Satan tried to tempt Jesus, we see that Jesus told him to go away. He told him to go behind him. And this time also, Jesus was doing the same thing. He knew that one word from him would mar the plan, the purpose that God had for his life, that he was for which he came to the world. And he not only kept quiet, in fact, what he did further later on, what did he do? He asked God to forgive his accusers, because he knew that they knew not what they were doing. because behind these accusations, it was someone else, the accuser of our brethren. Let us this morning take this little minute to picture in our minds. We might close our eyes if we wish to. Someone who has wrongly accused us, or has said something that has wounded us, said things that were hurtful, things that are very hard to let go. Maybe the very thought of that person makes our blood to boil. These accusations must have been very hurtful for Jesus. In our case, it brings out anger, hatred, resentment, even frustration. Let us remember that person who has accused us wrongly, for whom we feel that hatred and resentment, anger. Let us be reminded right now, as we see that face, let us picture that behind that face is the face of our true enemy, the accuser of our brethren. Jesus knew that, and that's why he remained silent. The question is, do we remain silent? Dear ones, many times our silence is the voice of God. It leads to that greater plan, the purpose that God has for us in our life. Naturally, the devil, the accuser, doesn't like it. He makes us to fall into temptation by lies. Two kinds of lies. His lies for us and his lies for others. And a quick word of retaliation, or sometimes it can be subtle sarcasm. It might give us satisfaction of victory. But that victory, that satisfaction is very short-lived, because it opens the door for the accuser, the devil, to fill us up with more of his lies. And if we give in to his lies, and if we are not careful not to give in to his lies, then we might even find ourselves advocating the devil's cause instead of God's cause that we actually intended to as believers. We live in a world of retaliatory culture. There's retaliation to everything that we do. We want to prove to the world that we are innocent. We want to prove to the world that against all odds we are happy. We want to prove to the world that we are flourishing and that it wasn't our fault. We always want to prove ourselves. If you want to convey something that is very subtle in its sarcasm, nowadays the easiest thing to do is put up a WhatsApp status. Something that we have taken, some saying or some thought that we've downloaded from somewhere, which actually is meant for this person whom we want to give it back to. Very commonly done. And this meaningful WhatsApp status sends the message loud and clear. Then we have our Facebook uploads, which try to prove that against all odds we are very happy, everything is hunky-dory. And then there's Twitter, where you put in someone tweets, and then there are so many accusing him for spreading rumors and all kinds of things. They accuse him of all kinds of things. And sometimes there is an ulterior motive, even when it is not an accusation, it comes in as an ulterior motive in the form of support. What are we required to do when we face such accusations? The way God responds to us is the way we are called to respond to others, even the ones who accuse us. And that's as simple as that. Let us this day, dear ones, let us remember that the insult, the mockery, the accusation that Jesus suffered, it was in our place. He wasn't meant to have that. It was not because he was powerless, but because he chose not to make the enemy more powerful. He drank this bitter cup so that we gain eternity. Let us not give it up for a momentary carnal satisfaction. And remember, every time we do that, again, Jesus stands insulted, mocked, and accused. Once again, can I please ask you to close your eyes, and as our choir sings this song, The Man of Sorrow, let us remember the feeling that Jesus must have got. Let us be reminded when there were accusations being hurled at him, when people were falsely accusing him of things that he had not done, which he was suffering because of you and for me. Is it too much to ask for? Is God asking us too much to remain silent when we are facing such accusations from our accusers?